你自己踢牌嘛，冇錯啊！你嚟得啱啊！呢鋪牌有乜理由唔要啊？
係喎，點解你會唔要牌嘅咧？
有錢咪唔要咯。
又係幾多噶嘛？
使乜講？
白紙啊嘛
七十，
裝假狗。
彪叔，乜搞到咁大鑊啊？
我講唔到，快啲走！唔識綠色。哎呀！
Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed that little intro there. So let's go ahead and cover this. We're going to cover it before V-Man does. So there was, let me go ahead and share the screen. Sorry. What's going on, Ole? How's it going, Jawad? How's it going, Red Dundonian, Temujin? I hope y'all enjoyed. Let's go ahead and add that to the screen there. Let's go ahead and cover this. I don't know how long we're going to spend on it. We're going to cover at least a little bit of it. So apparently there's a shooting down in Atlanta. Open fire at 3 Metro Atlanta spas. Yes, spas in heavy quotes. The ones with happy endings, I imagine. Oh, Lord have mercy. Here we go. Okay. Police say 21-year-old Robert Long is now in custody in connection to a shooting rampage that left 8 people dead Tuesday. They say the Woodstock man admitted that he planned the shootings, indicating that sexual addiction may have played a role in his motive. Oh, man. This is going to be like incel shooter, isn't it? Ugh. Both local and federal law enforcement agencies have joined in on the investigation, but have not yet declared an exact motive. Oh, boy. He was fed up. The Long, who is white. Oh, man. Young's Asian massage. Oh, man. Oh, this just looks so, man. Oh, man. Okay. The owner of a business next door said she had a bullet come through her wall. They were screaming, and I told my husband, can you see what happened to them? They may need help. 45 minutes later, a second and third shooting happened in Midtown Atlanta, where police say 3 more people were killed at the Gold Spa and a 4th at the aromatherapy spa on Piedmont Road. Police said they quickly identified Long as a suspect. Oh, man. He apparently has an issue, what he considers an addiction. Oh, no. And sees these locations as something that allows him to go to these places. Oh, man. Oh, man. What else can you say? What else can you say, everybody? Yeah, V-Man is Vosh. Yeah, V-Man is Vosh. Yeah.
Now back to our top story on 11 Alive.
Okay, let's go ahead and listen to this one.
Custody accused of killing 8 people at 3 spas in Cherokee and Fulton counties.
We know 6 of the victims were
at 3 spas.
Okay, let's just go ahead and play this and oof.
Now back to our top story on 11 Alive tonight. A white man is in police custody.
Why do they? Okay, I guess. Oh man, a white man. Go ahead. I can't. Go ahead.
Custody accused of killing 8 people at 3 spas in Cherokee and Fulton counties.
We know 6 of the victims were Asian women. A white man and white woman were also killed.
Lord
the
have mercy.
suspect arrested about 150 miles outside of Atlanta last night. We have team coverage for you tonight. We're hearing from the Asian American Pacific Islander community and people who knew the victims. We begin, though, with Brittany Kleinpeter, who's live at the spa in Cherokee County where the suspect first opened fire. Brittany?
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Oh, man. This is, okay. This is awful. It is. Not just for what that guy did, but how bad it looks for, golly, just, you know, relations between white folks and Asians. I hate to be blunt and say it like that, but holy moly, oh, this makes people look so bad. Okay, I'm not gonna play this whole thing. Holy crap. Holy, oh. So it sounds like, oh man, the details are gonna come out more though. The details are gonna come out about this. And I'm going to wait to pass judgment then. What's going on, Noji's Dead? What's going on, Peter Bizzle? Apparently there was a shooting in Atlanta where a guy went to 3 different spas, heavy quotes on that, massage parlors. You know, yeah, your bars, your massage parlors. And he shot up the place. He killed 8 people. Within the first 4 seconds, they said it was a white man. So it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. They're saying it's a sexual addiction type of thing. Oh, man. Investigations, I'm sure, are going to happen into these businesses. I'm sure on a deeper level. Yeah. My sister's going crazy. Libtard. My mother's about to send her to my sister's house. Oh, man. There you go. Yeah, it happens. Is that in your, well, you know what? I'm not going to dox you, but is that in your neck of the woods, Peter? I'm just checking. Yeah, I'm not going to, yeah. Whew, man, that's sad. That's bad. Oof. Whew, man. Okay. Should we move on? Oh, okay. No. Okay. I just want to make sure here. Should we move on for that for now? Because I feel like, oh, you're in Tennessee? Okay. I got you. No problem, Peter. I didn't want to, but yeah. Okay, so press 1 if you want to move on to the actual video, the reviews that we're going to talk about, or do you want to cover this some more? Because I feel like Vosh is just going to say, oh, incel, and oh, man, it's so awful, and, you know, white people need to shapen up. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, let's move on then. But I feel like just in the sense of we cover that type of thing, we'll mention it. But yeah.
Back, were you making mutton? Forgot.
Making what? Oh. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. Keep it going, folks. I'll be right back. You know what? Let me go ahead and play this intro one more time. How about I do that? Play that.
幾條白裝，你嚟得啱啊！呢鋪批入乜嚟入乜料啊！
係喎，點解你買嘅咧？
有錢要，
又係幾多啊？白紙啊嘛！
出水！
裝假狗！
搞到咁大鑊
All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into what I was going to cover here.
Displaced, seeking these
Sorry about
displaced
that.
people.
Crap. It sounds pretty bad, Peter Bissell. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into this video here. So this is a recent video by Renegade Cut. And speaking of cut, I cut this down by about 6 minutes because he was covering colonialism and specific book quotes. And I said, there's nothing much to criticize there. It's like it's straight from a book. And I could talk, if I wanted to do more research about NAFTA, okay, but I didn't feel that was important. But there are a couple things I think he kind of misplaced a little bit. So let's go ahead and cover that. So Renegade Cut is talking about borders and, how borders can be better seen through migration and everything else like that. So let's go ahead and cover it, shall we?
How many people right now, in this moment, are currently displaced, seeking refuge in another land, seeking employment in another land due to lack of options in their own, seeking asylum from dangerous conditions, or seeking a better life for their families after the resources of their home had been stolen by wealthy entities? In total, there are about 1 billion migrants throughout the world.
Okay. Now, this is a little bit deceptive here. This bit here. He says 1 billion migrants, 80 million forcibly displaced. And we'll go ahead and let me finish.
Of this billion, there are 80 million who are forcibly displaced, including 45.7 million people who are internally displaced within their own countries. Of these displaced people, approximately 45% are under the age of 18. If the world population...
Okay. So here's the problem. He says source United Nations. Now, he doesn't give a specific source, but I found something that's pretty close to what he was talking about. So let me go ahead and show you that here, and we can go ahead and clarify some things. Okay. More uprooted, fewer return, possibly pushing forcibly
Now back
displaced.
to our top story on the London Live tonight. A white man.
Sorry about that. And there we go. Sorry about that. All right. So, more uprooted, fewer return, pushing forcibly displaced above 80 million. Okay. Have passed 80 million in mid-2020. Okay. Global ceasefire now. And let's go ahead and look a little bit deeper here. So it says in this article anyway, Syrians and Venezuelans, 168 countries have fully or partially closed their borders, with 90 countries making no exception for people seeking asylum, although 111 countries have since found pragmatic ways to keep their asylum system fully or partially operational. The mid-year figure of 80 million includes 26.4 million refugees, including 5.7 million under the mandate of the UN Palestinian Relief under UNRWA, plus 4.2 million asylum seekers and 3.6 million Venezuelans displaced abroad. Okay. So here's that other figure where he said 45.7 million. Let me go ahead and we'll just have to go back and forth.
Is approximately
Sorry about that. So 45.7 million internally displaced. Okay. Which is what it says right here. Yeah, we're displaced around the world at the start of 2020, a number that was not updated in UNHCR's latest calculation. Okay. Germany, another major destination. Okay, so he's, like I said, this is something that's a little more nitpicky, but I think it's important to tell this difference. I don't see anything about 1 billion people. Now, they say that climate change would cause 1 billion refugees by 2050. I believe, yeah, 1 billion by 2050 is what they said. Nothing about the UN saying that, though. I think that's an important difference to make, at least in my opinion. You know? So I think it's a little disingenuous for him to kind of just throw all those stats into one, thinking it all came from the same place. But then he's just like, well, it's from the United Nations. You know, I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to be, somewhat good faith, but I feel like there needs to be something said. Okay. So yeah, let's see here. We covered that one. So we'll hit that one. Oh yeah. World Health Organization. Let's see here. There are at least an estimated 1 billion migrants in the world today, of whom 258 million are internal migrants, international migrants, and 703 million internal migrants. 1 in 7 of the world's population, 68 million of the world's internal and international migrants are forced displaced today. So yeah, I think he just it's very fun. It's interesting how these stats are kind of misused, I think. So yeah, and I didn't see anything offhand for the 45% under age 18. I'm sure it's out there, but I just didn't see anything off the top of my research there. So we'll go ahead and we're going to close that one too. Oh yeah, this is good. This is pretty good. This kind of counters a little bit of what Renegade Cut says here. But let's continue on, shall we?
7 billion, then 1 out of every 7 human beings on Earth is presently a migrant. For context.
And once again, he kind of covered, that article that we saw already in this kind of covered that, Yeah, 1 in 7 of the world's population, So we'll go ahead and continue on.
There are more migrants on Earth than the populations of the United States, Canada, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Japan combined. Migrants is a broad classification for people who are living and working outside of their nation of origin. This can include everything from migrant...
Okay. So, also what he does is, at least in my opinion, at least according to how the standards work, he's not really explaining the difference between migrants versus refugees. Okay, he's referring to people who are refugees and not necessarily migrants quite yet. Migrants implies that they have a job, which I think he's trying to say here, but he's playing a little fast and loose in my opinion.
Laborers seeking either temporary or permanent employment if there is little to none in their home, to refugees from war, famine, changing climate, cartels, and other disastrous, dangerous conditions. Migration generally flows from poor nations to richer nations, often prompting a nativist and xenophobic posture from the citizens of the rich nations.
I don't doubt that.
However, many of the conditions that lead to migration from poor nations to rich nations have to do with circumstances created by the rich nations in the first place. Unequal trade deals, debt from the former colonial period, wars waged by rich nations on poor nations, environmental disasters attributed to climate change primarily caused by industry in rich nations, and other circumstances that lead to people abandoning their homes in search of a better life. In other words, rich nations exploit poor nations and create conditions in which those living in poor nations...
Yeah. Peter Bilson, that's a good point. Yeah, low-wage migrants are used to bring down wages. Exactly. This is some Cato Institute level type of thinking here. But yeah, like I say, I cut this video. I cut 6 minutes out of it, which is basically him covering colonialism, kind of like the history of the state. I keep a little bit of the beginning of it where he's talking about a Max Weber quote that's been used by anarchists before. But other than that, I cut out a fair amount. So I tried to make it a little easier. I did try. Anyway.
Need to seek refuge elsewhere. Then,
Yeah.
rich nations set the terms in which poor migrants and refugees can enter, effectively laying responsibility
works.
on the people of the poor nations for circumstances created by the rich nations. Finally, rich nations do not accept responsibility for the conditions that lead to migration and use nativist political propaganda, news media.
Why do you? The thing is, why do you pick the Anglo here? The Anglo that has no actual. I mean, do you think the Brexit Party has that? He's part of the Brexit Party. Oh wait a minute, no. He left the Brexit Party and now he's with some other group, right? I can't remember which party offhand, but he's not even that influential. I can't even think of the Anglo's name, but who cares, honestly?
Media and other forms of manufactured resentment to maintain this relationship and this system. According to philosophers such as Jean Bodin and sociologists like Max Weber, a state is a territory in which a monopoly of violence has been claimed. Violence is physical force, physical control, or a threat of either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He is.
As residents of the state, are not permitted access to violence, whereas agents of the state, be they politicians or law enforcement, either control the terms in which violence can be used or perform the violence directly. The border of a state is used to physically enforce the terms of who is and is not allowed within the state. Thus, a border is not only potentially violent in the more visual, explicit, and instantly recognizable form of this definition. Instead, a border itself is a form of violence. This is compounded by the fact that activities...
Oh, man. Exactly. Well, I mean, the thing is, imagine if you said that, if you said that to a Red Army soldier in like 1942, borders are violence. He'd kill you on the spot. Or a Finnish soldier in 1941. Borders are violence. We need to do away with borders. The hell you talk? You know what I mean? Or even talking to the Chinese defending against the Mongols or something like that. Oh, I mean, what is this sort of relativism? By the way, he's still with the Brexit Party, but the Brexit Party changed. Oh, yeah, Reform UK. Oh, okay. I appreciate that, Red Dondonia. I was trying to keep... It's been a bit since I've looked into that, but yeah.
Decided within the state that affect people outside the state through foreign policy are also violent. Politicians, pundits, and other public figures direct our attention to violence at the borders to justify this resentment. But the existence of borders is a far greater source of violence. National borders partition...
The thing is, I'm just going to tell you right now. I'll just save it for the end, but his solution is crap. And I've noticed this little shift that there wasn't really an answer between... he doesn't say open borders. He's just saying that borders are violence. So, yeah. Well, Srujan Agala, we are talking about a video made by Renegade Cut. He's one of these progressive, sort of anarchistic type of folks. And he's saying that borders are violent. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to break down his arguments. We already broke down the one where he was talking about the United Nations and how he used different articles, but just said United Nations and expected us to look for it.
The world and control migration to serve the economic interests of the few. How did this happen? Was it always this way? And if not, does that mean that some other system, some other way of life can work out better?
Borders ensure peace, not violence. Yep, I agree. Like I say, he goes on this. He shows a caveman describing the state and all that and doesn't talk about any specifics. He just talks very vague terms, doesn't talk about Alexander the Great or any specific cultures or like the Umayyads or any. He doesn't even mention these things. That's why I cut it out, partly because there were no arguments there. It's just like, well, the plague happened in Europe, and slavery, colonialism, all the buzzwords, But yeah.
For all of us,
Yeah,
period.
I made
An
a cut, yeah.
unequal relationship between rich nations and poor nations had been established through trade deals that disadvantaged the latter. This unequal relationship was also solidified through debt from colonies.
Yeah, Red Dindoni, I'll go ahead and tell you his solution. His solution is that there will be some border controls, and there will be, the word illegal immigrant won't be used as much, but we're going to keep the terrorists out. He says specifically at the end, we're going to keep the terrorists out. Yeah, that's basically what his idea is that, if we just allow, it's not necessarily freedom of movement, but it's more of, we just want it to be less violent. That's really what it is.
That poor nations had to pay off themselves
a
despite being debts
ridiculous bunch
created
of
and
nonsense
enforced
here.
by the colonizers. These debts give rich nations the power
colonizers.
to impose policies on poor nations, such as monopolies by foreign corporations, and influence on internal policy that advantages the rich nations. This unequal economic relationship works in tandem with stricter immigration restrictions and tightened security at borders. Once rich nations could control poor nations through economics, rich nations then had to find a way to prevent migrants and refugees from simply abandoning their annihilated homeland and living ironically in the nation that was responsible. Restrictions on entering nations, particularly rich nations, rose in tandem with trade deals that negatively affected poor nations.
I was thinking this too. It's like even the various indigenous societies, they had loose borders. It wasn't necessarily the strict sort of Euro-minded borders, but they did have borders. And yeah, I cut to the bullshit here.
According
This is
to
him talking about how NAFTA
author of Undoing
screwed
Border
over
Imperialism, a salient example of the impact of capitalist mobility on migration trends in North America is the effects of the 1994 maintenance of poverty by rich nations forces migrants in poor nations to travel to the very nations that kept them in poverty. Migrant laborers suffer from abuse and exploitation. This includes criminally low wages and dangerous occupations. Because of their tenuous legal status, migrant laborers are unlikely to raise serious grievances with their employers, or they may face dismissal or even deportation. In summary, rich nations keep some nations in relative poverty through unequal trade deals and debt arrangements. Then rich nations welcome some migrants from poor nations to exploit them for inexpensive labor. Rich nations also exclude most migrants to maintain control of the economy and to force most in poor nations to continue to provide inexpensive goods to import into their nations. On its face, this is
socialism isn't going to necessarily change that, but yeah, go ahead.
Obviously inhumane,
I don't
but
think he is,
propaganda
Peter
changes the narrative from a conflict between rich nations and poor nations to a conflict between what is legal and what is illegal. It is legal to impose restrictions on borders. It is legal to maintain poverty in poor nations through trade and debt. It is illegal to flee from these conditions and immediately join the workforce of a wealthy nation. Rich nations make the rules to disadvantage poor nations and then...
let's see here. I think I brought it up here. So yeah, I wanted to look at this just as a kind of a side note here. When he talks about they should just be able to join the workforce. So I looked at underemployment because unemployment is fairly fairly low. But underemployment is about 12.7% right now. Oh, wait a minute. No. Excuse me. That's okay. I'm going to go off this rate just for the heck of it. So looking at that, the rough population of the U.S. is about 328.2 million. So that's roughly 41,681,400 people that are underemployed. And you're going to throw more, migrants into this work where people are unemployed. It doesn't make any sense to me, does it? where you're going to put that many more people in this system that, people are struggling at right now? Why do you want to bring more people into that? I mean, I guess it's, I hate to sound like an ignorant American, but I guess it's a step up. But, number one is you're going to be in your own little area where you understand your culture, and it creates tension between other cultures. And once again, this is kind of the idea where it's just like, well, racism only exists in the U.S. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It's just like, that's not true. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, though.
Chastise poor nations and poor migrants for not following them. No matter how little power migrants have, and no matter how badly they are treated, the blame is always shifted on them instead of those who have created these conditions in the first place. Legal immigration good, illegal immigration bad. However, the legal immigration system is prohibitively costly and time-consuming for those facing immediate hardship. Legal immigration often takes years, work visas have many restrictions. And
my whole point is this, is that people are hurting in this country. Why do you want to bring, it's like if you have a child and you're having trouble raising that child, why are you going to get another child? Yeah, I know that's an oversimplified view of it, but it's like, you can blame the military-industrial complex, you can blame IMF, and you can blame all these other folks. Yes, absolutely, but it's just, yeah. Western countries are trying to recolonize poor ones, which results in migrants coming to the West. And in some sense, colonizing Western countries is just a positive feedback loop. Yeah, I can't argue with that. That's true. The rest of the world's racism is more specific. America just carpet bombs. That's true. That is also true. Can't argue against it.
Application is no guarantee of entry, ever. The legal immigration apparatus in a rich nation like the United States is a maze of caps on nations and limitations on who may and may not cross the border. If the legal option is not available, the illegal option will be taken. If the legal option is not immediate, but the need is immediate, the illegal option will be taken. It is simply inhumane to expect people whose lives have been destroyed by poverty to wait for years, sometimes decades, before trying to make a better life for themselves and their families. It is a position of incredible privilege and hypocrisy, considering why they are impoverished to begin with. Those who leave the borders of their own nation.
Notice he doesn't, he never mentions the IDF, never mentions, neoliberal policies, shock doctrine, the overthrowing of any specific, like the Allende government in Chile, or, what happened with, Chiquita, overthrowing governments that were not friendly to Western imperialism. Mentions none of that. Talks in vague generalities, which annoys the hell out of me. But yeah, continue.
Due to emergency hardships and displacement rather than purely to seek employment are more commonly called refugees. Civilians in nations that are suffering from a bombing campaign from a richer nation with economic interests in the region often find themselves without homes. This can happen directly, meaning their physical house or building can be destroyed in the conflict, or indirectly due to the nation's loss of infrastructure and institutions. Refugees count in the millions, and these various refugee crises originating in poor nations.
Reminder about this guy. This is where I was going to say this anyway, when I saw this. This guy made a video about how bad Tulsi Gabbard is because she supports Assad. I'm really trying to understand this guy, because it's like, okay, you're talking about refugees and about migrants coming into the country and about mud colonialism, but won't discuss any specifics. I understand that he can make, a smaller video, but it's like you can mention at least the IMF or, mention these aspects a little bit so that people have some sort of understanding, other than something coming from a purely emotional standpoint. And this is what he's doing. This is feelings over facts, in my view. absolutely feelings over facts, this guy. And that's my main problem with this. You know, a guy who will talk about, you know, Assad being evil, this and that, but, you know, I guess it's okay that we, you know, that the United States, Israel, and, you know, Saudi Arabia and Turkey got, you know, getting, well, actually, no, Saudi Arabia, I'll take that out. But yeah, you know, the U.S., Israel, and Turkey being involved in, you know, Syria because of oil through Genie Oil and all that other business that happened back in 2011. Not going to discuss that. He's not going to say anything about that. But yeah, that's... Ooh, go ahead.
Can be directly tied to the intervention of rich nations. For example, the United States' involvement in Afghanistan from 2001 until today. More than 2.5 million people are estimated to be living in a prolonged internal displacement, while more than 2.7 million people have been forced to leave the nation to live in Iran, Pakistan, or various nations in Europe. As of last year, 9.2 million Iraqis are either internally displaced or refugees abroad. Internal displacement means that people are resettled within the same nation but live in camps and temporary housing indefinitely, partly due to limits on rich nations accepting refugees. In addition to war refugees, there are also...
This exists in Jordan today because of, you know, the Palestinians not being able to survive in Palestine. And so they end up in countries like Jordan, where conditions are pretty not good. Similar to what he showed with those tent cities. But yeah, let's carry on.
Climate refugees, people displaced due to changing environment or environmental disasters. According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, the impacts of climate change are numerous. Limited natural resources, such as drinking water, are likely to become even scarcer in many parts of the world. Crops and livestock struggle to survive in climate change hotspots, where conditions become too hot and dry or too cold and wet.
You want press 1 if you want me to just skip ahead a little bit. I'll wait. Because I'm thinking about skipping ahead. This is already... I should have cut this down more. Holy crap. Let me make sure here. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go ahead and just skip ahead. I can't, you know.
Be trapped. Furthermore, the numbers don't add up in any meaningful way to justify the actions of the rich nations. For example, the United States sets refugee admission caps. According to Pew Research, in 2019, the administration set a refugee ceiling of only 30,000, and in 2020, the ceiling was set to only 18,000.
It has anti-lockdown,
This might sound
but it's
like
more
a lot
about
of
corruption.
people, but not when you
Really,
take it.
Temujin? Oh, really? Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, yeah, Jordan. Oh man, like I say, that's a real tough spot, you know, for a lot of folks that want, you know, sort of a pan-Arabism, you know, because yeah, Jordan, man, they. Okay, let's go ahead and skip ahead more.
That there are,
I'm trying to give the context
deliberately
here.
or otherwise,
I don't care.
the number of annual
Okay, here we go. So he's gonna use this example, which is awful in my opinion, but
crime rings to accuse asylum seekers of cheating on Social Security, scavenging
Somebody's gotta do
tube
it.
tickets,
Someone's
and
gotta
other
do it, Ole.
rackets. So, with all of this in mind,
Yeah.
about borders and refugees and immigrants, does the world have to be this way? It was not always this way. In the United States, for example, between 1892 and 1954, almost 12 million immigrants were processed through the immigration station on Ellis Island. It was a golden era of immigration, people coming from all over the world to start again in the United States. And the nation...
They lived in slums. Like I said, once again, you had an immense hatred of each other. Like I said, the 5 Points Gang is a perfect example. You had, you had Jewish gangs, you had Italian gangs, Irish gangs, African American gangs, all in this area of Manhattan, fighting each other all the time, living in squalor, through much of the 19th century. and even going all the way up through maybe, the 1930s, possibly. New York was in a bad state. But to say, oh, well, it was a golden age of, you got to be kidding me, man. Like I say, there was a lot of tough crap. I mean, this is part of the creation of the mafia, was because they, of that tough crap that happened in New York at that time. Like I say, I'm going to cover this a little bit here, and this gives you an example here. So this is Charles Dickens, who visited in, I'm not sure what year, I'm going to assume 1850s, because they say later on is that Lincoln visited. So Abraham Lincoln, like I say, so poverty, wretchedness, and vice are rife enough where we are going now. This is the place. These narrow ways diverging to the right and left, and reeking everywhere with dirt and filth. This is New York City. This is New York City in, like I say, the 1850s. He was accompanied by 2 policemen who took him inside the buildings, where he saw residents drinking, dancing, and even sleeping in cramped quarters. Debauchery has made the very houses prematurely old. See how the rotten beams are tumbling down, and how the patched and broken windows seem to scowl dimly like eyes that have been hurt in drunken frays. Like I say, you could even say this about, the Bronx and other, boroughs in the late 1970s and early 80s. It was awful in New York. And once again, New York is on that, is on that flow right down again. I mean, New York is, New York City is in a bad way. I'm not going to say it's going to end, is that, they're going to completely abandon New York City, but it's headed towards that downslope, as the rest of the country goes, a kind of, what is this? What place is this? The squalid street conducts us. A kind of square of leprous houses, some of which are attainable only by crazy wooden stairs without. This is New York City. This is what he's praising right now. Yeah, some pics made it look like a war zone. Exactly. Less border restrictions equals good things. Yeah.
The nation largely benefited from this mass of immigrants. However, between these years, the number of annual immigrants reduced every time anti-immigration legislation was passed. Quotas were created,
It's amazing to me how he's just like, the country benefited from these things. Yeah, maybe so, but the thing is, though, they also, like I say, I'm going to be very careful about what I say here. But it also created the the landscape that exists today. Yeah, the influx of immigration at the time led to rampant nativism. Exactly. Absolutely. Like I say, this led to, the hatred of, the Irish and everybody fighting and making it that much worse. You also had, of course, the issues in New Orleans with, the race riots that happened down there with Italians and, Hebraic people and all that. Like I said, this guy is very, like you say, he's being very revisionist, in my opinion. But yeah, let's hear some more.
Their nations and regions were restricted or outright banned. Ellis Island is now a museum. Everything has changed. So, how do we solve the border crisis? Well, there are 2 lines of thinking. One is solving the circumstances that lead to...
Okay, we've got some straight galaxy brain here. Be careful. This is the galaxy brain zone. Here we go.
Undocumented migrant labor and refugees in the first place. And the second is solving borders as violence specifically by abolishing immigration restrictions. In truth, both solutions must occur in tandem. The abolition of restrictions and the reorganization of the entire world cannot happen
Okay, so these are the measures. He's going to say them out loud, but I'll go ahead and cover them right now. Interventionist wars of choice must end. Yeah, I can agree with that to a point. Greater steps towards curtailing climate change. That's pretty vague. What do you specifically mean by that? Trade deals must be immediately renegotiated. Yeah, those happen real quick. Those trade deals, I mean, they don't spend decades on those at all. No, they never do that. All colonial debt must be immediately wiped out. what? How would you even begin to do that? I mean, if you talk to any IMF person, they would laugh at you. Anybody that works in finance would laugh at you at these things. Foreign aid as reparations. And yet, I bet if you asked this guy if they should give 40 acres and a mule to Ottos, American descendants of slaves, this guy would be like, well, let's not talk about that sort of reparations for people, and let's not talk about that. But oh my goodness, this is oof. This is why I try to cut out. Oh my goodness, here we go.
Through one reform or one change. Interventionist wars of choice must end, or else refugees will always exist. Greater steps towards curtailing climate change must also be enacted. Climate scientists.
Civil war, actually, too, with these interventionist wars, I guess, like I said, you know what? This will take me to this next bit here. So it's interesting. This is a research article from 2018. I think it's interesting to say nonetheless. Number one is that they cover, Turkey, Lebanon, Italy, Germany. It's interesting, of course, that he covers, the current refugee crisis, commonly cited as being the greatest the world has faced since the end of World War II and the formation of the International Refugee Regime. At the end of the war in 1945, more than 30 million people remained displaced from their homes, including 12 million ethnic Germans. Ooh, be careful. That's more of a Wignap point, talking about the Volga Germans and all that being expelled from the USSR and the Germans kicked out of Prussia. Ooh, be careful with that. That's a Wignap point. That's a Nazi point. Be careful. It's true, but I'm just saying is that, that's what they use. Two initial attempts to organize after World War II stymied, blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. I was reading this before, so I made sure to, In responding to forced migration crises throughout the Cold War, early initiatives involved facilitating the movement of peoples out of the Eastern Bloc countries. America then shifting to supported refugee flows out of newly decolonized countries and Cold War battlegrounds, including those from Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. In the 1970s, this shift was associated. The current refugee crisis. Here we go. So during the Cold War, refugees, particularly from communist-controlled nations, were often welcomed as a way to discredit the Soviet bloc and promote the formation of opposition groups in exile. Absolutely true. This occurred with, the Bay of Pigs invasion. After the Cold War, especially after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, refugees were often viewed with suspicion from those with Muslim nations. Populism, immigration restrictions. Yeah, we all know about those things. Let's go ahead and cover a little bit more here. Despite the efforts to revitalize the global refugee regime, given the nature and scale of the current crisis, we are likely moving into an era of additional restrictions on refugee entries. Yeah. Can we watch this since it's St. Patrick's Day? Yeah, we can probably go ahead and do that. Yeah. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and do some Mutarinos here. Okay. Anytime. Oh, okay, here we go. You know what? I'll show you Red Dead Redemption. Hold on. I'll show you in just a moment here. There we go. I'll go ahead and show you. There we go. I'll show the screen. But yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Okay, there we go. I am reading. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat here. I am reading from this journal's. It's a Sage publication. I'll go ahead and drop the link. There we go. There we go. There's a link for that there. So this is what I'm reading right here. Yeah, despite efforts to revitalize the global refugee regime, rather than hyperbolic rhetoric on both sides of this debate, academic research can shed light through systematic analysis on the causes and consequences of refugee flows, while recognizing legitimate humanitarian need and the protection of human rights. Paramount, the potentially negative consequences of mass refugee migration cannot be ignored. Here we go. Says it right there. So while recognizing legitimate humanitarian need and making the protection of human rights paramount, the potentially negative consequences of mass refugee migration cannot be ignored. Contemporary cases, including Rwandan Hutu refugees in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Syrian refugees in Lebanon, and Afghan refugees in Pakistan. I think he covered a little bit of that, but yeah, reveal that refugees can have negative impacts on receiving states, including raising the risk of conflict diffusion across borders. Nonetheless, closing the door on refugees is a violation of international law. But yeah, I thought that's very interesting, that little note there, to kind of be a little more accurate. But yeah, I like that. Yeah. My sister's less crazy now. Yeah. Smedley Butler was the guy who said, yeah, the war is a racket. Yeah, I read that on stream quite a while back. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that because I think that it's an interesting point. But yeah. So let's go ahead
have
and
their
cover
recommendations, and for reasons of the profit motive, they are not always
Go ahead and skip it,
unscrupulous or outright criminal
I know.
agents, subjectors, and no legal justification for the frequent violations of international law that are ignored at borders.
Mhm.
Thus, the whole "it's your fault for crossing the border" argument and the related "it's not our problem" argument absolutely crumble when a broader view of events is allowed. It is
don't care.
unreasonable to expect someone to continue living in their home if it's on fire. Another argument against abolition of restrictions is that existing jobs would be threatened and that immigrants are a tremendous strain on welfare. However, studies consistently show that is not true. Economic migration.
So 2018. Once again, I think that he mentions that in this in that piece as well. So I do want to make sure here because yeah, I think that they did cover that issue as well. Civilians in conflict zones make critical assessments about their decision to join combatant groups, stay in place. Let me see here. Refugees also have important implications for receiving areas. Early research has demonstrated that states in the regions that host most refugees are most likely to experience civil conflict onset. And let me go ahead and share the screen. Sorry about that. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. I'll go ahead and go over this. But yeah. So it says early research has demonstrated that states in the regions that host refugees are more likely to experience civil conflict onset, although refugee hosts beyond immediate neighbors do not experience severe security threats. Okay. Adding this finding, Ruger from 2013 demonstrates that when refugees have ethnic ties to host regions, upsetting the demographic balance within the state, conflict is most likely to erupt. Just to make sure here. It says it right there. I'm not that smart to just try to read something. And yeah. Somali refugees in neighboring Kenya and Hutu refugees in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, prompted fighting in receiving states. In addition to overt security risks, other scholars have found evidence that a large influx of refugees can place strains on the economy of the receiving countries, such as employment losses among native informal workers. Actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and start this because this is pretty good. Okay. That a large influx of refugees can place strains on the economy of the receiving countries, such as employment losses among native informal workers and increases in the rents of higher quality housing units. Yet, refugees can also contribute positively to the economy and society of receiving. Okay. See, I'm trying to be fair and balanced here, unlike Fox News. But yeah, focusing on the United States, a 2017 study, New American Economy, shows that refugees are more likely to start a small business than native-born citizens. Study of Congolese refugees in Rwanda demonstrates that the influx of refugees and the resulting international aid significantly boosts the local economy, such as the human capital that they bring with them, the host country response, and actions taken by the international community. While existing scholarship uncovered many important aspects of refugee migration, this literature is still relatively new. So, once again, basically the jury is still out, is what they are saying. Yeah. I'm debuking. Yeah, Honduras. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like, the U.S., the U.S. isn't responsible for what happened to Mexico. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's important to read stuff like this. Very interesting. Like I say, I'll go ahead and drop the link one more time because it's very interesting. I think it provides some interesting information there. So basically, they're saying, at least in my opinion, is that the jury is still out on a lot of this stuff. So yeah, while existing scholarship, much of the initial research has approached the multifaceted determinants and consequences of forced migration via cross-national analysis of examination of individual case studies. Once again, anecdotes is what they're saying. Examination of individual case studies of notable post-Cold War civil conflicts. For instance, a number of studies have explored the roles of refugees in the diffusion of conflict across borders, including between Rwanda and Zaire, and Somalia and Kenya. Such case studies explore local and micro-level contributors to diffusion and its limitation. However, these case studies cannot speak to the general question of whether refugees facilitate conflict diffusion. Both of these dominant approaches fall short of being able to demonstrate the generalizability of micro and local level processes. So yeah. But yeah. I think there's some good points in that. So like I say, you can go ahead and I put the link in. I'll drop it one more time. A pretty interesting read overall. Anywho, let's go ahead and finish this Feihua up here. We're almost done.
Is only perpetuated because there is economic demand across the border. A counterargument to this is that these circumstances may change if, say...
It's interesting, of course, because Carrier went to Mexico. You know, the Carrier plant that builds air conditioning units and, heaters, your package units. They went to Mexico because they didn't have to pay them as much. So let's be careful about that.
Only the United States loosens or abolishes its border restrictions. But if this action is done in tandem with migration is only perpetuated because there is economic demand across the border. A counterargument to this is that these circumstances may change if, say, only the United States loosens or abolishes its border restrictions. But if this action is done in tandem with other rich nations like the rest of the G7 or some European Union members, the influx of migrants would not land solely on the borders of the US. Other arguments...
Once again, this is pie in the sky thinking. And also, no, I don't care about this Marjorie Taylor Greene. Say what you will about her. Nobody in their right mind would defend her.
Against abolishing immigration restrictions come from irrational fear. Politicians and conservative pundits beat the drum of nativism, claiming that migrants and refugees are dangerous. This has been especially common in the United States and the United Kingdom in recent years. However, studies have shown that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than those born in the US.
Once again, 2018, like I say, new information comes in, etc., etc. There have been events that have occurred in the last 3 years. Let's be careful about that. Yeah, is that the QAnon lady? Yeah, that's the Jewish lasers gal. Yeah, that's the Jewish lasers gal. Yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead. Yeah, it's almost done.
Nativist sentiment also includes the charge that allowing more immigrants would change the culture of the nation, but this is merely a dog whistle for race. A nakedly bigoted argument is inherently worthless. So, what would a world with limited or no immigration restrictions even look like? Those in favor of this abolition vary in their overall political philosophies, meaning whether or not their end goal is the abolition of the state and borders altogether. But a common proposal, one which could be arranged within our current system, is this. Immigrants, whether migrant workers or refugees, would pass through customs checkpoints, and migration would no longer be prevented by Border Patrol. Illegal immigration would be a label only for unwelcome terrorists, those carrying contraband, and others deemed to be planning immediate...
Okay, hold on. Let's go back here.
So, what would a world with limited or no immigration restrictions even look like? Those in favor of this abolition vary in their overall political philosophies, meaning whether or not their end goal is the abolition of the state and borders altogether. But a common proposal, one which could be arranged within our current system, is this. Immigrants, whether migrant workers or refugees, would pass through customs checkpoints, and migration would no longer be prevented by Border Patrol.
Okay, so who would do it? So it's not going to be done by Border Patrol. Who would do what you're going to explain next here? Go ahead.
Illegal immigration would be a label only for unwelcome terrorists.
Unwelcome terrorists. That's pretty loose, isn't it? Like I said, this is a very common talking point here. This is a very common thing. This is also comes from the defense of Biden as well. I saw this with Bo the Fifth Column, where he's like, well, we didn't toss half as many folks out. We're not going to toss as many folks out under Biden's administration, but we want to keep the terrorists out. We want to keep them out. It's like, well, what does that mean? Who are the terrorists? Like I say, this is pretty much where they have to surrender a point, in my opinion. This is where they've had to surrender a point and say, well, yeah, terrorism has occurred in the past couple of years, but yeah, social workers when they aren't playing police. Exactly.
Was carrying contraband, and others deemed to be planning immediate harm. Few would be turned away except...
Okay, so the folks that have contraband, or folks that could cause harm, or be, terrorists. Like I say, this sounds like a surrender of a point to me. But yeah, go ahead.
Under these extreme circumstances, uncovered during screening. All other migrants and refugees would be given immigration documents. No caps that would limit the amount of migrants. No waiting for years for the system to choose your turn. No arbitrary denials based on education, skills, or status of family across the border. Nothing like that.
Wait a minute. No caps. Okay. Let me tell you why that may not be the best idea. Because the thing is that then you will create the atmosphere of, they took our jobs. And it's the same type of thing. I mean, once again, this guy doesn't talk about H-1B visas or any of that other type of stuff where qualified people, are native-born qualified people are overtaken by folks from India, this and that. Like I say, I'm not going to sit here and down on Indians and whatnot. I'm just saying I blame the system. I blame the immigration policy that exists now so that they can pay Indian programmers and engineers less money, or give them the chance, or say that they'll be paid less money so that native-born engineers are not given those same jobs. So that's ICE's problem. That's the immigration policy's problem. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be racist. I'm being very, very careful with my language. Okay, go ahead.
With practically no immigration restrictions and with almost everyone getting documented, there would be no need for dangerous coyote crossings or climbing over walls. Migrants risk their lives because they assume, often correctly, that they will be turned away at the border.
Yeah.
If they are no longer turned away, the coyote crossings would dry up, leaving what remains of Border Patrol to focus on actual problems.
Yeah.
That is not to say that abolition of immigration restrictions would have no problems, only that this system would produce fewer problems and would be significantly more humane. This is not some utopian dream, because the world used to be this way, and it can be this way again.
Okay. So I cut it right there because, his only example is the late 19th century and early 20th century. That's when it was good, when we allowed, it's like, people were living in slums, dude. What the hell are you talking about? Like I say, I mean, it's the same, bro, what is this guy on? What a nutcase, huh? Oh man, that's just, I don't know, man. Like I say, I blame the system. I do not blame the individuals. And I want to make that 100,000% clear. Blame the system. Blame the game. Do not blame the person that comes in. Absolutely. I want to make sure of that 100,000%. But yeah, this is, waiting at you. Oh, Jimmy Whisper, what's going on? We just covered a video from Renegade Cut talking about borders and how borders can be made better somehow, I guess. That, borders right now are violence because of some Max Weber quote that's overused. But yeah, I do want to say that for the record, though. Let's go ahead and cover this next one here. Okay, so this is... Oh, shit. Okay, so this is a video from That Dang Old Dad, who apparently did marketing work. He was a cop. He's done marketing work. And now I guess he's more of a left-wing sort of guy who does this kind of ASMR style stuff. So he's going to talk about marketing, so it's going to be a lot of charts and other crap like that. But me being a marketing major as I am, maybe I can give my critiques on it with some balance. Let's go ahead and continue. Oops.
Marketers broadly have perfected every dirty trick in the book to steal attention and compel people to buy things that they don't want in order to generate profits for their corporate overlords. That said, marketing in and of itself is not inherently evil. It's just a tool. It's just the art of persuasion, and specifically uniting people who need something with a solution to their problem. And that can absolutely be done without exploitation or chicanery. So tonight, I'm going to teach you some marketing tips and tricks.
I don't believe that, but okay.
And I'm going to offer my theory on why liberation-minded people sometimes have a tough time with this stuff. Now, this video is intended only for people who want to build a kinder, more inclusive world, one free from extractive capitalism and unjust hierarchies. So those of you who want to build higher walls...
Code. Once again, I think that y'all should know the code by now, but when they say unjust hierarchies, they mean anarchist. Yeah. When they say unjust hierarchy, you already know it's anarchist, and that means it's going to be bad. It's going to be cringe. I'm just telling you right now. Learn some, get up on your code, man. When they say unjust hierarchies, anarchist.
Thicker cages and hoard more wealth or exclude more people. You're not allowed to watch this one. Honor system people. So any of you chuds out there, just go ahead and drag this window to the recycle bin on your desktop. Click close forever and unplug your PC. Cody, Raymond, Tammy, I see you.
We don't care.
You're making everyone wait.
Yeah.
Go on. Okay.
So funny. So funny.
Let's move on.
Let's do the 50s radio check.
The style of marketing I practiced at work is called inbound marketing, and it was developed in contrast to outbound marketing. With outbound, the marketer pushes their message out to their audience, typically by interrupting them. Think TV commercials or telemarketing. In outbound, you bombard your audience with messages, hoping that when they next need to buy your type of product, your brand is stuck in their brain. Inbound works the opposite way. In inbound, you create lots of content about your product that lays in wait in the form of blogs, videos, research papers, and so on. You do this in the hopes that when your audience is researching a problem, your content pops up and guides them either to a solution that establishes you as an expert, or to your product, which hopefully results in a sale. When inbound marketing is done well, it's very respectful of the customer's agency and time.
No. Respectful of their agency and time. No. If they have a lot of money and they know what they're looking for, yeah. But to say that they have respect, no, they don't. Come on. They're as pushy as they can be. But he's defending his job.
Inbound marketer exchanges expertise for attention. Inbound marketers operate under the assumption that if you respect your audience and give them truthful information that they're looking for, they will reward you with a sale at some point. I discussed this briefly in a previous video, but let's dive a little deeper. In order to effectively capture an audience's attention, inbound marketers have to be very good at understanding their ideal customer's journey. See, not every potential customer is ready to buy today. So if your content only focuses on closing a sale right away, you'll miss out on prospects who are earlier in their buyer's journey. To illustrate this, I'm going to show you a company with a really sophisticated inbound strategy. I just want to say up front that I'm not affiliated with this company. I'm not endorsing their products or their company behavior.
Unironically agree, Rendon.
This is not buzz marketing or anything sneaky like that. But anyway, the company I'm talking about is Colgate. What does Colgate want to do? They want to sell you toothpaste, mouthwash, and other dental accoutrements.
Yeah.
They advertise these products through commercials, newspaper inserts, and flashy packaging at the store, hoping they'll be top of mind when you next need to buy more toothpaste. However, they don't just hope and pray that you saw a commercial or didn't throw away the ad pages of the newspaper.
Yeah.
They have built a fairly sophisticated content library on numerous oral health topics.
Yeah.
Everything from recognizing the symptoms of gum disease to how to floss to an explanation of dental x-rays.
I didn't watch this one all the way
Why is
through.
Colgate explaining how a dental x-ray works when, as far as I can tell, they don't sell x-rays? Easy. Colgate wants to be your dental expert. They don't just... But if my poor little tooth garden is swollen and hurting and
Okay,
Colgate
I don't care
comes in
about your
with a
bullshit
solution that
example.
actually helps freebies with an order. It's different for every business, but it comes from the same principle all marketers know. It's much easier to keep a customer than it is to win a new one. So once you win someone over, it's imperative that you deepen that relationship so that it lasts for a long time.
Yes, retention.
You may not want to think of it this way, but ideology is a product you're selling too. There are people all around your community who are in a variety of relationships with the status quo. From people who benefit from it and love that, to people who don't notice the status quo, to people that are harmed by the status quo but think it's benefiting them. If your goal is to show people why the system is harmful and to get them to take steps to oppose that system, you're facing the exact same challenge that any marketer is facing at any business in the world.
Yeah.
How do I get people to see me, care about my message, trust me, and make a decision that I want them to make?
Yeah.
This doesn't mean that we have to lie or downplay our beliefs or anything like that.
Come on, you know better than that. Come on, Bacon. Okay, yeah. It's a vacuum ideology, yeah. It really is, though. I think that's that's something also we learn in marketing. It's just talking about, the funnel effect. Bringing people in and then just simplifying it down. But yeah, it's a very big marketing tool. That thing, yeah, propaganda equals marketing. Yeah, there's an argument for that. Yeah, I mean, you can get into Edward Bernays and all that sort of thing. Yeah, become relevant again. It's just like I say, this is kind of the retooling that I talked about a little bit with, after Donald Trump left. This is people trying to retool to say we're not just opposing Trump. We're opposing the whole system, and we're going to make a better system. How do you bring people in? That's what he's doing right now. This is how you're going to appeal to people.
I'm not even talking about worrying about optics or palatability right now. What I'm suggesting is that if you have an idea that you want to persuade lots of people to engage with, you have to think in terms of the buyer's journey. Ineffective marketers always want to control the conversation and talk about what they think is important about their product. Effective marketers do much more listening and empathizing and want to understand the questions and concerns of their audience so they can meet the audience where they are. I'm not suggesting that we sit down with Trump voters in a Midwestern Waffle House so we can hear them out. I'm just saying that being an effective marketer means we do have to have some understanding of our target audience, their fears, concerns.
Well, they're chuds. Didn't you say that at the beginning? They're chuds. They're not worth your time. See, like I said, this video is already undone. I could just stop it here and just say, man, to hell with it. You already called them chuds. If you're a right-wing chud, you don't need to be listening. Then why are you going to try to appeal to these folks?
Concerns, pain points, and their lexicon. For example, you and I might be very passionate about the dangers of commodification, meaning the ways in which capitalism has transformed relationships that used to be non-commercial into relationships of buying and selling.
Yeah.
As examples of that, we might want to explain that, say, the privatization of government services like a power grid results in the deadly exploitation that occurred during the 2021 Texas winter storm. Or
Yeah.
we might discuss how scientific inquiry has been commercialized such that the avenues of innovation that aren't deemed profitable by the capital-owning class.
See, the thing is that beyond optics is that people just don't want to talk about things like that. They just want to skip to the end. They want to do the Despicable Me meme of or the South Park meme where it's just like, get people involved, question mark, revolution, or or revolution, or question mark. That's pretty much what that is.
Struggle to find funding, such as, I don't know, COVID vaccines pre-2020.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on our target audience, effective marketing might mean
Freedom
that we
Torches
don't
was
start
because he
with the
really gave a
word
shit about women's rights.
commodification.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, maybe we don't start with a blog titled, How Commodification is Wrecking Your Shit. Because what if our target audience doesn't know what commodification is? If we're
How do you
trying to win
simplify it?
hearts and minds, perhaps a different title can convey the same idea in a way that doesn't rely on jargon. Like, why Texas's corporate-run power grid resulted in $10,000 power bills and dozens of dead Texans.
Okay. I can answer that question for you. You have to look at the deeper issues, though. Is that people bought from Okay, let's go ahead and finish this up.
Or consider this, many people believe that the concept of private property should eventually be abolished. But your target audience might hear that and think, oh, so in your perfect world I have to share a toothbrush with the commune? We're all just going to use the same big pile of underwear? Tony gets to put all his Mumford & Sons MP3s on my Zune next to all my Sonata Arctica tracks? Of course, in the Succulent Manifesto, Marx and Engels said, we communists have been reproached with the desire of abolishing the right of personally acquiring property as the fruit of a man's own labor. Hard-won, self-acquired, self-earned property. Do you mean the property of the petty artisan or the small peasant? A form of property that has preceded the bourgeois form? There's no need to abolish that. The development of industry has to a great extent already destroyed it and is still destroying it daily. Property, in its present form, is based on the antagonism of capital and wage labor. Meaning, we know private property is different from personal property, but not everyone has a handle
We've
on
heard
it.
that over and over.
So again, depending on your target audience, you might not want to go with a video essay titled, Private Property Sucks, and instead maybe something like, you own less so your boss can own more, and it gets worse every year. This is not to say that no one should ever create jargony content, only that you should make sure that what you create starts from your target audience's perspective, not your own. Your target audience may actually be young leftists whose life experience has led them to reject capitalism, who are hungry for the theory and the jargon. Just make sure that you know that up front before you start.
Yeah, everybody's hungry for jargon. Yeah.
And finally,
don't dumb it down. It
let's
never
go
works.
back to that final insight of Inbound. Preserving relationships is just as important as winning a new convert.
How is this guy a
liberatory
marketer?
politics.
I'm
I was
legit-
part of a
I'm-
digital
oh, sorry.
marketing team, and the question, because what if our
How is this guy a marketer?
we shouldn't
I mean, this guy barely knows leftism. Barely knows Marx. How is this guy? Oh, golly. Go ahead.
tolerate abusive behavior. I'm just saying that the more comfortable people feel asking tough or confusing questions, the more likely you'll be to delight them with the new community that they've joined.
Ha 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 ha.
If you're thinking of creating content, Tammy, goddammit, what did I tell you? You think I can't see you slink back in here? Go on, get. Get. If you're thinking of creating content, or you're a
So
seasoned
funny.
pro looking to up your game, here are some marketing practices you might find applicable. Not everything in marketing maps one-to-one onto organizing and radicalizing people, so take what you find useful and discard what you don't. If you're just starting out, I recommend
thanks,
that you
Bruce
create a
Lee.
few buyer personas to keep in mind. To quote HubSpot, who literally wrote the book on Inbound, a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. When creating your buyer personas, consider including customer demographics, behavior patterns, motivations, and goals. The more detailed you are, the better. If you're encountering this concept for the first time, I know what you're going to say. But I want my content to appeal to everyone. You sweet summer child, of course you do. We all do. But it's not possible. A video that is going to persuade a Brooklyn Gen Zer thinking of joining the DSA is probably not going to persuade.
You leave your ass behind. Yeah, I gotta say, I believe you. I believe what you say, Jimmy Whisper, in this case, yeah. Like I say, coming up with these profiles and whatnot and understanding, you know, oh, this person's 45 years old and, you know, they've been screwed over or something like that. They've been a welder for, 20 years or something like that. And it's just like, okay, how do you appeal to that person? And say, like I say, once again, now he's talking about segmentation, but this is much more of, this is the difference in how I was taught marketing, because I have a feeling that this guy, has just done inbound marketing and, maybe went to school for it, but this guy was also a cop. This is a funny thing to me, but yeah, go ahead.
The boomer small business owner afraid of a higher minimum wage. So as you write scripts or blogs or plan out TikToks or whatever, consider who you want to engage with your work. What kind of job do they have? How old are they? Do they live downtown or in the burbs? What are their goals, personally or professionally? What are they afraid of? What are they frustrated by? What would their common objections be towards your way of thinking? What does your idea have to offer them? How does it solve their problems
too deep in the
and meet their
machine.
needs?
Yeah, I agree.
And personas don't just help you decide what you talk about, they can also help you decide where you talk about it. For example, if you want to reach Gen Z, you should be thinking about how you can use TikTok and Twitch. If you want to target boomers, you should be thinking about Facebook and golf courses.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Golf courses. Not the McDonald's, where you can find, or go to the local bar or something like that. Golf courses. That shows you how little you know about boomers, but yeah. Even I know a little bit better than that, yeah.
You're really interested in talking to neo-Nazis, get on Gab or Parler. Or set up an account on Snapchat to reach nobody. Anyway, I'll include a HubSpot persona template in the video description that you can play around with. And again, I don't work for HubSpot, I'm not endorsing HubSpot, they just have a lot of material on how to build good marketing campaigns, and I think some of you might find it useful. The next technique is one for the seasoned creators out there, but I think newbies can also benefit from it. It's called content mapping.
This goes back to the 4 Ps of promotion, place, product, and promotion. That's the 4 Ps of marketing. So the thing, like I say, it's just different terminology, but I've heard a lot of this before being a marketing major. I think overall it's like, he doesn't really want to engage. It's like, he's still going to call them chuds. We shouldn't sit down with magapedes. It's like, okay, if you live in a town with, if you live in a small town, you're going to have to learn to do that. Or at least give them some lip service and give them some sort of respect. Basically what he's saying is that all of these, the Antifa and all that sort of stuff that's come up since 2016, now we're going to have to be like, no. We actually want to do a revolution. We don't want to just do LARPing in the street. The fact is, though, that it's nonsense. Go ahead.
In short, content mapping is a process where you take your buyer personas and you link them up to your buyer's journey or to a customer life cycle.
That is true.
And you make sure that you have content for each intersection.
Parler, which is
essentially you're evaluating your content for who it appeals to and when it appeals to them, and making sure that there aren't any gaps. For example, let's say you want to encourage people in their early 20s working shit jobs in small Midwestern towns to join the IWW. You have a pretty solid persona there, so let's think about 3 stages in a customer life cycle: awareness, consideration, and decision. People in the awareness stage have realized a symptom of a problem, but haven't necessarily named or defined the problem yet.
Yeah.
So your video essay titled, "If You're Flippin' Burgers, You're Being Vastly Underpaid," might speak to someone who feels exhausted and exploited by their job, but just...
See, what he's leaving out is that people aren't that clever, all right, on the internet in general. People that make YouTube videos and make Twitch streams, everybody's talking about the same thing in general. You know, yeah. Also, a way of telling the video is anarchist. They shriek like a little, shriek a little bit about Nazis, fascists, socialists are against capitalists, anarchists are against Nazis, which hardly even exist. Yep. Very good point.
Thinks that's the way it is in an entry-level job. And maybe you have another video essay titled, "The IWW, How Joining One Big Union Instantly Increases Your Leverage." Great. That appeals to someone trying to decide between joining, say, the DSA or the IWW. Content mapping will help you realize that you're missing an essay targeting your persona in the consideration stage.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is okay. He was talking about earlier is trying to bring people in. And then they'll ask, what sort of success has the IWW had recently? How is that going to bring people in? You know, consideration. Give some examples of victories for the average working class or the average working man or woman or whatever, you know, to show that they actually produce results, not just lip service and saying, well, yeah, if you come to this meeting or whatever, then, we'll bake you cookies, right? This is all people like that can say. Notice that he kind of left that stuff out, yeah. Who even joins the IWW? A lot of potheads in general join IWW, the Wobblies, or excuse me, different thing, but yeah.
Meaning someone who has clearly defined their problem but has not yet come up with a solution strategy yet. This will help you focus your attention on a script that speaks directly to that person at that stage. Maybe a video like, "Why Your Boss is Terrified You and Your Coworkers Might Work Together," or "Debunking the Myth That Labor Unions Are No Longer Necessary." Again, I'll include a link to a...
Necessary is one thing, but actually relevant and actually doing the work that they need to do, that's a whole other issue.
Content mapping handout that you may or may not find useful.
Space brownies,
There are tons of other marketing techniques and variations on the ones I've already discussed, but I don't want you to get too bogged down in technique tonight. I only want to whet your appetite for the kinds of practices that the highly paid experts are using. Some companies are using these techniques to make the world a worse place. So let's steal them and use them to make a better place.
One thing I forgot to put in my script. Disabled access is hugely important in organizing. If your target audience can't read, or hear, or parse your message, they might not just miss it. They might assume your movement won't make space to include them. Accessibility isn't...
Oh, boy. Once again, inclusion. Oh, boy. Make sure you include everybody. Oh, boy. It's like, why don't you worry about bringing people in first before you worry? Like I say, this is part of the problem. People are skipping steps ahead. You have to get a core base of people first before you start worrying about accessibility. This goes to show, once again, the lip service that people give for people with disabilities. I'm not going to sit here and down on people like that, but it's like, come on, man.
They're nice to have. It's a requirement to be an effective communicator.
Why radical struggle with marketing? Because they're LARPy. It's that simple. Because they're LARPy and they just want to do crazy shit. I prefer to liquidate take. Yeah.
I imagine there are some of you who've watched this far who are a little uncomfortable with all of this. It sounds very corporate, very capitalist, maybe even inauthentic in some way, manipulative. As I've made my journey from right-wing chud to Marxist stud, I've noticed a certain vibe in radical communities.
You're not a Marxist. You're an anarchist. You already said it, but go ahead.
Communities that I think comes from a good place, but is sometimes counterproductive to our goals. Those of us opposed to capitalism, to exploitation, to unjust hierarchies.
Maybe stop calling people chuds. And maybe just, maybe that'll be a start. about not, treating people like shit. But yeah, I don't know. That's just me.
We believe the things we do because we care about human life and human well-being, communities thriving.
The thing is, when I always hear that these folks are right-wing, I think that they were just libertarians. I think that they were just Rothbardian libertarians, the right-wing libertarians. I imagine that's what they were. They weren't some hardcore Wignat or something with swastika tattoos. I don't imagine that they were that type, but yeah.
Racial and economic justice and the health of our planet. I mean, these are the highest of stakes, right?
Yeah.
We look out at an extractive system built on plunder, built on hoarding as much wealth as possible until the earth slides into environmental collapse, built on denying food and housing and medical care to the poor. We look at all that and we say, holy shit, this has got to stop. You're literally killing us.
Yeah.
And that's not hyperbole. All of us in radical circles know people who have died from state violence, preventable medical issues, or a mental illness that they couldn't afford to treat. So this altruistic line of thinking comes from the very best parts of us, but makes it very hard to want to just play the game.
You got a point. You got
to
a
want
point.
to compete within the system, or to tolerate people who aren't on board. After all, if I say, I support universal healthcare because I don't believe anybody should die just because they're poor, anyone who disagrees with me even a little is basically advocating for millions of unnecessary deaths. That's monstrous. This is why I think that many radical communities sometimes struggle to build what I would consider to be a well-rounded content strategy. Material that would fit much earlier in the buyer's journey can feel like it's insufficiently liberatory. Like it's still propping up a toxic system. An essay about why the minimum wage is too low feels like it's ceding too much ground if you believe that wage labor should be abolished. A video advocating for stricter hiring standards for police officers feels like a waste of time if you think the entire prison industrial complex needs to be abolished. And honestly, that's valid. Something that I really love about radical content is that it very often comes from a place of passion and conviction. So I don't blame many radical communities for not feeling passionate about baby steps and half measures. That said, I think that those of us fighting for a better world have to give a lot of thought towards building on-ramps for people coming from much different places than us. And like I said above, this doesn't have to mean watering down the message or explicitly advocating for incrementalism. It simply means that we can't take for granted a shared lexicon, shared experiences, or even shared values. The other aspect of inbound marketing in particular that I think doesn't gel well with radical politics is that inbound is playing the long game. I mean, it involves building a vast network of content that sits and gathers views and search engine credibility and shares slowly over time.
Once again, he's still talking about videos. He's not actually talking about going out and talking to people. And that's why, this brand of, left-wing progressivism is never going to take off. Because you just want to remain on YouTube. And if you want to just remain on YouTube and Twitch, then why put on the mask of, I want to do good things for people? You're just sharing an audience. That's the whole thing. It's like, this is what I don't get. It's like a targeted, it's like a segmented market or whatever, It's like, there's, you're just dealing with the same group of folks. It's like, that's why whenever you get a, more of a breadtubey type of channel, you get that same group of people. Yeah, there's going to be, a little bit of outsiders that are going to come in, but overall, it's the same group of people. You're trapped by just being on YouTube, and those people that want to watch that same old preaching to the choir type of stuff. You don't want to go out there and talk to ordinary people. You've already made that known. We shouldn't talk to right-wing chuds. Okay, well, good luck then, I guess. I mean, you're gonna lose them to Wignats, so okay. But you want to remain on YouTube where, you can have your good comments and you can, delete all the bad stuff that you don't want to see and not have to deal with the people out there that will disagree with you. you know? But yeah, let's go ahead and continue.
It can take Google as long as 6 months to index certain web pages and blog posts. So many of the fruits of an inbound strategy don't really start to plump up until years later. I think that can be very frustrating for people who see climate catastrophe and a resurgence of fascism knocking on our door right now.
That sounds good,
You're
Commander
right.
Brutus.
There's
Yeah.
work to be done today. There's injustice and suffering that needs attention right now. Of course we have to be loud and rowdy about these things. I guess I'm just saying, if you come across an essay, a video, a book, or a conversation that doesn't share your same sense of urgency, maybe show it some grace if it's something that can be used to bring new hearts and minds into the cause over time. I'll leave you with an anecdote. When I was coming up in conservative evangelicalism, I was very into philosophy, except it was philosophers like Thomas Aquinas, Francis Schaeffer, C.S. Lewis, G.K. Chesterton.
Okay, hold on. Evangelicalism. Aquinas, Catholic. Huh? I know that there's been a couple of these folks. Yeah, using the word valid. Exactly, yeah. Oh, he's going to be edgy. Here we go, folks. Here we go. Let's listen to it.
Fuck you, St. Augustine, you Manichaean motherfucker. As I started to grow away from the...
What a nice guy, huh? See, this is what happens. These are edgy teenagers who just grew up and realized that, oh, everything I was taught was a lie. Oh. When you have to appeal to some of these folks. I've seen, apparently this Demon Mama has been a fairly big name out there. And I guess she, heavy quotes, or he, more realistically, was in like some evangelical cult or something like that. Yeah, using the valid without saying heckin' first. Yeah, heckin' valid. Yeah. Golly.
Church, I started to give attention to other philosophers, and one day
Like
I came
who?
across this video by this strange, sniffling man named Slavoj Žižek. He was standing in a trash dump and he was talking about ecology in a way I had never heard before. He claimed to be a Marxist, which I'd been trained to hate, but he was so weird that I kind of let my guard down and just listened to him talk. Then I watched a documentary where he started talking about classic films in a very philosophical way, and as a film nerd myself, I was just mesmerized.
Watch the one about vegans. That's pretty funny. Where he says, yeah, it's like vegans, yeah. You're going to turn into monkeys or something. I can't remember that clip. I got to find that. Hold on. I got the, I'll find it. I'll find that Zizek clip. Hold on. That's
and
funny.
Then the blessed YouTube algorithm was like, oh, you like this dude? You might like this other channel too called Philosophy Tube. And suddenly, I'd been seduced into a world of ideas that I would have never considered years prior. My point is that you never know what random project might hit the right person at the right time and create a new comrade.
Whatever.
If you've made it to the end of this video, I presume that you're somebody
Oh,
who
not
cares
much,
about
Kaz,
building
not much,
a better
man.
world. And I suspect that you have some ideas about how to do that. My message to you
Philosophy
is that
Tube. Exactly,
this
yeah.
movement needs voices and talents on all ends of the spectrum.
Oh, yeah, I
At
did
all
rent it,
points
don't
in
you?
the buyer's journey. We need the nerds
I
and
found
the
it, though,
theory
don't worry.
heads. We need the comedians and the goofballs. We need game streamers and film critics. We need musicians and artists.
You need to diversify is what you're saying. I get it. But the thing is, though, is that people, like I say, there are not many people who want to do that sort of work. And then, of course, you look at internet culture, then you're going to cancel people for what they did in the past or what they did, what may happen in the future. So, no, that's nonsense, man. Yeah, degenerates. You'll turn into monkeys. That's it. Thank you, Ole. I appreciate it. We're going to see the clip, though. Don't worry.
And we definitely need the relationship builders, the good listeners, the Discord moderators, and the discourse mediators.
Mm-hmm.
To say nothing of the people in the real world doing the hard work of real-life organizing, feeding the hungry, and protecting their community. I said this in my last video and I meant it. I don't know what your talent is. I just know that you have something that can help. You have a place in the movement, and trust me when I tell you from experience, there are no unimportant places in a movement.
Yeah.
What
No, come on. There are some people that are useless. Come on now. Don't What type of hippy dippy sort of everybody has a place in this world? Oh boy, give me a break.
Bring to the table is necessary, and I'm really proud to have you here by my
Never
side.
works. Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, what do you think? What do you bring to the table? Where do you fit into the strategy? Where do you want to fit into the strategy?
The movement TM.
I
Yeah.
have one of the best
movement
comment
TM.
sections on YouTube, period. So I think you should all get hooked up with each other down there and raise some hell.
We don't
If you
care.
have time, please drop kick that like button and subscribe if you haven't. And share this video with people that you think might
I
find
don't
it
know.
useful.
Once Discord mods.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah. Grooming. Yeah. Groomers, basically. Discord mods, read groomers. Come on, man. Okay, I'm done with this. Okay, we're done with that shit. Okay, let's move on to the Zizek video, and then we'll play the San Patricios Battalion video.
When did you have the last meal? Breakfast or down there? Down there. So I mean 1-2 hours later we should maybe go down there and or do you know any? I mean, you know, at the place where you had your coffee, they do have good menus, you know, like very nice ones, like a simple steak or whatever. They are not bad. I mean, sorry. Degenerates. You will turn into monkeys.
I love that. You all turn into monkeys. Return to monkey, right? That's the best thing. I love that clip. No matter where you are in the movement, movement, people are the worst. Exactly. Yeah. All I do all day is a farm. That's my life goal. Hey, there you go, man. As long as you have a goal, then who cares, bro? Don't worry about these goobers trying to create mob movement. Yeah. That's some gay shit anyway. Some mob movement. You know? Yeah. What was that vertical politics video? Oh, that was a new one that he just, that's just for me. Yeah. That one's just for me. American Dissident. Yeah. Don't worry. I'm not going to make y'all watch that. Okay. Let's go ahead and play this as the outro. And we'll go from there. Ooh.
My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile.
Yeah, David Rovitz, oh boy.
When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. And there amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side.
There you go.
We marched neath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin go Bragh. Right with the harp and the shamrock, and Libertad para Republicalis. Just 50 years after Wolftone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may.
Oh, yeah, let me check. I'll see if I can get him an answer.
To San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in Matamoros, while their volunteers were raping the nuns. In Monterrey and Cerro Gordo, we fought on as Ireland's sons. We were the red-headed fight.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is Uncle Ho. I guess he's having trouble with Odyssey. Let me see what we got here. Creation pay to use, or am I not seeing how to create one for free? Yeah. I think what you have to do is you have to be able to link it. You have to be able to link the video, link it to your YouTube. Unless I don't want to pay. I never had to pay. Yeah, I never paid. That's the whole thing. Huh. Yeah. I think what you said was right though. Where option to verify, option to verify via email, bizarre, yeah, that's what I did too, and I was able to do that, and then I linked my YouTube channel, but I did have to change it. I forget what the struggle. Let me go ahead and look at my Odyssey right quick here. I think what I had to do was, because I had to go through another channel as well. Let me see what it is here right quick. It's gonna take a minute to upload here. Okay. So yeah, I had to do two, and I was trying to create the Uncle Thomas one, and then I had to link the other YouTube channel and move, I think, the Avi over and move all the videos over. And I think I had to do it like that. I forget. I think that's how I did it. I know that's not much of an answer, but that's all I can think of. But yeah. And Mixie got BTFO'd by Zizek in that vid. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that's all I can really say. I know that Uncle Ho may not want to do it, but yeah, I think that's all I can really think of off the top of my head. But yeah, let's go ahead and finish up this song. Let's go ahead and skip to the end here, or close to the end.
Major battles, Churubusco was the last. Overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside in the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side.
Well, there you go. All right. That was a nice, sobering song there. I hope y'all enjoyed that stream that we had.
I must return to my burrow.
Oh, crap. Sorry about that. Okay. I think that's about it then. I guess we'll go ahead and end it here. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that, and may come out with another video about... Yep. See you later, Rentendonium. I guess we'll go ahead and end it here. So I guess I'll just go ahead and just end it, and we'll just call it that way. So see you later, and goodbye.